Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. You gave me this fantastic idea last week about changing the neck on that guitar instead of playing around with the frets and things. And I ended up on this kind of circular thing in my mind where I was like, well, if I change the neck on that guitar, that's fantastic, but I'll then have a spur guitar neck. What can I do with that? Shall I get a body for that guitar neck and make another guitar? And then I was like, oh, why would I want a Squire neck on a body that isn't a Squire guitar? That'll just seem weird. And I was like, should I just build another guitar instead of? And then I'm kind of like, but now I'm just effectively buying another guitar. So I've got myself into this circular negotiation in my own mind about what the hell I should do. Should I bother changing the neck on that thing? Am I just going to go down the road of building another guitar? Should I just build another guitar? Just trying to work that out in my mind. Greetings, welcome back to the Guitar Smarts podcast. This week we dissect a great night playing at Damo Lodrick's local jam night, where we let loose, rocked out in celebration of Damo's birthday, had a fantastic time. We also discuss my inability to make up my mind about a possible Esquire mod that we were discussing previously, or a new guitar build entirely, whilst Kiran admits that he's got the feeling and the need to buy a new guitar when we visit the London International Guitar Show later this year. Finally, we finish off with a discussion about using Midi to control my Line 6 Catalyst 100 guitar amp as a get-out-of-jail rig for if and when my Helix decides to crash. Looking at a lot of the posts on Helix groups online, it seems possibly inevitable. Got something to say about the podcast this week? Then please come along to the Guitar Geek Hangout page on Facebook to have your say and to see what the other listeners of the Guitar Smarts podcast think all about it. As always, remember to like and subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss the next show. We've got a Linktree in the description of this podcast that provides you with quick and easy links to our podcast page on Spotify, the backing track solo challenges we've recently produced, and some excellent Spotify playlists related to previous shows. But if you click on one link only, make it the Guitar Smarts Guitar Geek Hangout page on Facebook, where you can get to know many other guitar nerds just like us. You can also find a link there to our Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the show, which is entirely self-funded. And thank you to our recent contributors Matt Marchant and John McKilkin. Your kindness and generosity hugely appreciated. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get to it. Hey! Oh, I'm tired this morning, Kiran.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
Feeling a bit tired. I haven't had a late night for a while. Last night we went to Damo's Jam, didn't we? Because it was his birthday.
Yeah.
Damien Lodrick. He's not been on the show for a while, but yeah, if you've listened to many of the shows from the past, you remember Damo. And it was his birthday. Happy birthday for this week, Damo. And it was a cracking night, wasn't it? It was good fun.
It's always good fun being amongst like musicians that I've known and kind of respected and loved for years. That bit I kind of thoroughly enjoy. And getting to see you play, mate, always a pleasure. I must say.
Yourself, man.
Wow.
Yourself.
I get to hear myself play all the time. But oh no, honestly, man, you really made my night last night. And that Les Paul of yours is sounding sweet.
It really is. I am really loving it. And do you know what? It's 20 years since I've had it. Pretty much, because that was like a 21st birthday present that my mum and dad got me when I just moved down south to start studying at the ACM. So that guitar is at least 20 years old now, and it's playing really beautifully. But those pickups, man, those Iron Gear pickups that are in there, they've just brought it to life. And I just love playing that guitar now. Absolutely love it. It doesn't get much playing at gigs because I always go with a Strat. Usually for the wedding gigs, because it gives me those kind of
same
Well, the strap tones that seem to exist in all the songs, all those. Yeah. I tend to use positions 2 and 4 all the time, for a lot of those rhythm parts things. But yeah, to gig that, not gig it, but to get that Les Paul, cooking at a decent volume again through a couple of fantastic rigs. Do you know what? There was an interesting plethora of guitar rigs. It's not often you go to a jam and you've got a choice of 3 rigs to play through. Matt Lake with his fantastic modeling rig that he had with the Helix stomp and the Midi controller for his different presets, really great. And then Damo's got the old Hot Rod DeVille out and his pedal board, and that's sounding fantastic.
Yeah, I love that.
And Ollie Browning's that Victory amp and his rig, that thing just absolutely, that is a rock machine. He's got that dialed in so well.
Yeah, man. That's what you were playing through last night. That's what I was playing through last night.
The second time I got up, the first time it was Damo's amp. Both of them sounded great, but I really love that Victory. That Leanderton amp. It's just.
Is that what we're calling them now? We're calling them the Leanderton amp.
I'd say that with admiration, not with jest, but kind of. But yeah, really, sounded fantastic. Really great band. It's been so long since I've been to a jam night like that where there was just so many great musicians, so many great performances. Most jam nights I've been to over the years, you're kind of wanting for decent players, depending on where you get to and how well publicised the jam is. But it was good fun. It was really great to see you and everyone else. And I need to do it more often. I'm gonna start trying to commit to going once a month. Just to keep the cobwebs blown off.
Yeah, it's not that far for you, and we know from our recent chats that you love the drive home after playing guitars. So, hey, I must say, off that episode that we did, you have won the vote. You've won the consensus.
Really?
I think so. There's so many people that have responded to say, no, I agree with Matt. I like the drive home. Get to listen to some podcasts, get some me time. Yeah. So I stand corrected. But I had a 1-minute drive home last night from the jam.
Yeah,
so for me, embarrassing. I should go more often. But
you're gigging very frequently though, so it doesn't necessarily make sense for you to be adding that time to the engine, so to speak.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. That's exactly how I kind of feel about it. When I wasn't gigging, that was my outlet, was to go to the jam night. But when I'm regularly gigging, I kind of need to keep my energies for playing live reserved for the weekend, and also kind of, you don't play a lot, right? You play a couple of songs, 2-3 songs, whatever. But I don't want to expend that energy during the jam night, really. I'm not a pro musician. These guys go and do it, and they gig all weekend as well, and all of that. But, I'm a weekend warrior, so that's where I save my juice. But it was good fun, and anytime you're down coming to that jam, then let me know. Well, I'll definitely come up. I must say, it was a busy one last night, obviously, because it was Damo's birthday.
Yeah.
And which was great in many ways, because as you rightly said, there were some brilliant musicians there. I think if there'd been a gas leak in the pub that night and an unfortunate accident, that would have been most of the bands on the south coast of the UK wiped out in one fell swoop, because it literally just was all different kind of bands. But nobody got up as a band per se, right? Everyone was just kind of jamming with different people. So, but it was a busy one. And that for me is kind of like, I feel like I'm getting too old to stand in really crowded, busy, sweaty pubs with overtly drunk people. But the fact that you were there and some great musicians last night really kept me going. But it was definitely a party vibe in there last night, man.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
It was good. It was good.
It was good, man. Speaking of driving home, listening to podcasts, I've got to say, I've just recently started listening to a new one. And do you know? So Brian Wampler, who does the Wampler pedals, he does a podcast with a couple of other guys called Chasing Tone, which has been around for years. Actually, his podcast has been around for years, and I've known about it, but I've never actually listened to it. And I've just been listening to episode after episode this week. It's a really, really good podcast. I really recommend. If you enjoy this podcast, go and listen to that one as well. That's fantastic. Really good fun. Those guys are always having a good laugh. like we are, but it's really informative as well. So have you ever listened to that one, Chasing Tom?
I haven't, but I'm wondering, is that the same guy that does kind of like some pedal breakdowns and stuff on YouTube, where he talks about I really love his YouTube stuff as well, and I see a fair bit of that on different social media platforms, and I love his approach. Right, he's like clearly very technically knowledgeable. I've seen him do a bit of playing as well when he demos stuff. He can play.
Great player,
really great player. But I love the way that he just kind of simplifies what is very complex stuff for somebody like me listening to it, when he's talking about circuitry and different pedals, or how certain tones were done, or the mods that he's done to certain pedals to make them do something different, and kind of talks about the heritage of different pedals. So from a kind of expertise level, I really like watching his stuff, but he makes it quite nice and accessible. He kind of appreciates that he's a massive geek in this area, and that if he talks at the level that he could go into, it will alienate most normal people. So he tries to stay on the right side of that, which I think is very cool. But man.
And I think that is kind of reflected in the podcast as well. He really does. He can tell he's knowledgeable, but he brings everything across in a very fun way. And the guys who he's doing the podcast with, one of them, I think, is somebody he works with as part of Wampler, who's based in the UK. And then another guy who, a guy called Blake, I can't remember his last name, but he runs a guitar string company called String Joy, which is relatively new. And I think they've just started distributing in the UK through... what's the Strings Direct?
They're still going. They're good.
Strings Direct,
yeah,
they're still going. And I wouldn't mind trying out those strings. But really great podcast. I was listening to that last night on the way back. As well as The Rest is Football. But no, I don't think many football fans probably listen to this podcast. I don't know.
I didn't know you were into football.
Yeah, well, a bit.
a bit. We're not going to talk about that.
No, exactly. Bolton Wanderers fan, so it's it's not exactly a fun life, but So the other thing I wanted to talk about, there's two main things I wanted to mention. Number one is we've got an announcement really to make that we haven't properly announced yet. But when this goes out, this podcast, which is going to go out in like a week on Monday, which will be 9th of October, I think, something like that. So that'll be a few weeks before the London Guitar Show at Kempton Park Racecourse. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah.
And we have our own table. So last year we went as punters, right? And we had a stroll around, and we had a chat to some people, and then we sat down for some lunch and recorded, didn't we? And we released an episode with our thoughts on what we'd see. This year, we've got our own table, so we're an exhibitor this time, but obviously we're not exhibiting anything except for our own faces.
Which should be reason enough.
Of course, absolutely. Absolutely. Assuming I don't walk into too many walls between now and then. So we're going to be sat at our own table, we're going to podcast live, record live from the event. We won't be going out live from the event, but we'll probably end up releasing a number of episodes following that day of us talking about the guitar show, what we see. We're going to hopefully get to 2 or 3 people from various companies, people we've got our eye on that we'd love to chat to and interview. We're going to hopefully get them over for some conversations and release some podcast episodes that are interviews with those people. But the cool thing is we're going to be there, and if you want to come along to the event and meet us and say hello and then come along to the event. I think it's £14 to get in this year, and when we went last year, it was fantastic. What I was struck with last year when we went is I didn't realise how many really great luthiers there were in this country making amazing guitars that I'd never heard of, and that are not just like kind of one-man bands, like bona fide guitar companies producing fantastic instruments, that have been doing so for many years, decades in some instances. It was almost criminal that I didn't know who these people are and how fantastic their instruments were. But I guess not every luthier is also fantastic marketeer or,
That's
advertiser. That's part of the problem. And that's why these events are important to get to.
For sure, man. And it's difficult to cut through the noise, isn't it, really, of the behemoth marketing engines that exist and what it takes to play the algorithms on social media these days and cut through it and get yourself known about, Yeah,
for sure.
Probably harder than it ever was, even with all these channels, cutting through the noise and reaching your end audience. But yeah, there's some really exciting stuff being built. I can't wait to see what's there this year. And I've got a hankering for something. I think it's overdue. It's overdue. And I need to get something.
You ready to buy something? Are you?
Well, I was last year. Do you remember? I was kind of like, I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood for buying something.
Yeah,
today.
You almost missed out.
So the things that happened was I managed to get my funny little boxes power jam pedal, right, which from the kind gentleman that makes them there. Mine was on order, but he was there and he was like, right, well, you might as well take it now. So I was kind of like, I am walking away with something, which is a new pedal today. So that was kind of cool. That scratched the itch a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt this conversation. However, if you're a regular listener, then you should definitely come and join us on our Facebook group, the Guitar Geek Hangout. Go and join the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook now before you carry on with the podcast.
But then do you remember there was that Cort Z4 kind of Les Paul kind of thing that we just briefly saw at the end of the show as we were kind of literally on our way out. Everyone was kind of closing down. And I saw this thing and I was like, I really kind of like that. It was a kind of slimline Les Paul type shape, but kind of very metal inspired, all gloss black, EMG pickups, some funky exposed wood binding on it. Really nice kind of hardware.
It was kind of like a PRS Tremonti kind of thing, wasn't it? Mark Tremonti PRS type guitar. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah. It was, and we ended up getting it, but not at the show, which was bizarre. I went on Guitar Safari after the show to go because I couldn't get that one out of my mind. I thought that was a really good guitar.
I'm so glad. I mean, it was a hunt. It was a hunt just to find the model number because I think it was. Yeah. Was it a discontinued Cort model as well? It was, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So this was basically a new old stock that someone had, and. Yeah, it was, I think, 2009 or 10 model, but basically brand new. And it had been discontinued. So like trying to hunt it down, us figuring out what the hell it was took some time because there wasn't much literature available on it. But we found it. And the good news is after a setup, it's set up beautifully. In fact, I've had a busy week in the workshop this week doing various guitars for people. And, the first thing I put on the bench was that guitar because, as we know, we ended up finding it, ended up getting it, dealt with the fantastic gentleman who sold it to me, who was at that guitar show and remembered the guitar, and it went to my son as his Christmas present last year, and so he hasn't stopped playing it. He literally hasn't stopped playing it, and I gave it to him, set up and good to go. He's looked after it well. But I mean, this is kind of like shows you how lazy I can be with my own guitars sometimes. But it got its second string change this week, and I got to see another first, which is my son's face on new string day. Right,
really?
You know that feeling, right, when you just put a new set of strings on, and all of a sudden you're like. Oh, this is awesome. So, I mean, he's been playing that guitar non-stop, right? And I thought, it's fine. He plays it here and there during the week and he does his lessons with it and he's getting really, really, really decent on it. I must say, I'm so impressed. But I hadn't realized I hadn't played it myself for a while. So I picked it up the other day and I was like, this really needs some new strings on it. So I put them on it for him, new set of 10s and gave it to him on what was it, Monday night. I did it for him and just watched him play it. And his face was like, it's like brand new again. It sounds awesome. He was like, it's so much louder. It was like just acoustically playing it. And it was like, it's so much easier to play. And it hadn't dawned on me that it was his first experience of like having really played a guitar to the point where the strings are just definitely in need of a change. And then that experience of new string day, just the look of delight on his face.
That's so cool.
Who knew a set of Rotor Sound 10s could do that, for £5?
Rotor Sound 10, that's my string of choice as well these days. I love them. Do you know why I love Rotor Sound 10s? Because every time I buy a double pack, I get a free strap. I've got a bag full of spare guitar straps. You're the same.
I got them coming in my ear. Exactly. I've just reached over and pulled out like a bunch of these straps. I don't know what I'm going to do with them.
I've got 2 black ones.
Oh, I didn't know they came in different colours.
Yeah, well, apparently so. It's fantastic.
You lucky boy. I've only got a bunch of black ones. I was going to have to furnish them into some sort of coat or blanket, the amount that I've got.
Actually, I got to say, I think they're fantastic strings. I mean, they are probably the cheapest string on the market, except for some, probably really awful brands out there. But they're such great strings. They're as consistent and as long-lasting as any other non-coated string I've played, but just such great value for money as well. I always get like a 2 or a 3 pack kind of set for what works out at being less than a £5 per set, and often with a free thing, like a free, let's say a free guitar strap, whatever. But yeah, oh man, new string day. I'm so pleased for your son. I mean, it is the best thing ever when you've never, when you're not used to putting new strings on regularly, and you don't realize how much of a difference it makes. I'm kind of jealous that I'll never.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Jealous that I'll never have that kind of realization again of how amazing a new set of strings. I mean, I know it's amazing, but I'm over it.
That first moment. Yeah, that first moment when you go, oh, this is it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was a good one. And then I taught him to use his guitar tuner properly this week as well. So that's another one where, because he's doing a lot of stuff in drop D, so he's been doing that by ear, obviously, just tuning to the D string and stuff. But he loves, as I think I've mentioned on this podcast, he loves all the kind of Guns N' Roses stuff and the Slash and the Conspirators stuff that he's learning through. And that's obviously all tuned down a half step. So he's been wanting to play along to the record, but going in between guitar lessons and stuff like that, he's had to go from standard pitch to tune down half a step. So
he probably needs another guitar that is always in E flat, and then something that's in E, and then another guitar that's always in drop D. Maybe get a baritone for when he starts eventually getting into the heavier stuff. I mean, I think that's the only way you're going to solve that problem, quite frankly, Kiran.
Well, let's get to the Kempton Guitar Show, the London Guitar Show, in a few weeks' time, where we will be there in force, on getting all those questions to the people that you want to hear from, but also maybe doing a bit of guitar purchasing.
Yeah, I'm going to keep I'm going to hopefully take an hour out to kind of have a look around. I'm going to keep my eye out for some guitar parts. Some potentially necks and bodies, because of that was the other thing we were talking about last night. The last time we had the podcast, we were talking about me going into modification season, right? Yeah. I want to do something with this Esquire I've got. Now, last night at the jam, Ollie Browning had a really good suggestion, because he said he'd just raised the pickup height on his P90 on that fantastic Les Paul Junior that he's got.
Stunning.
And he said, interestingly, he got a much bigger bass response. The sound got darker from getting close to the strings, which seemed counterintuitive. But then when you think about it, actually it kind of makes sense, because if you're putting the magnet into more, if you're putting more of the string into the magnetic field, do you know what I mean? Then you're going to pick up more signal. So if more of that signal is bass now, then surely your sound's going to get darker, especially if it's the bridge pickup, which it is, where you're getting a lot of highs anyway. You're probably not going to get increased highs, but you're going to pick up more of that. So it kind of makes sense in a way. But I thought, I haven't played with a pickup height yet on the Esquire, so maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll play with a pickup height and see how that affects the sound. See if I can get a slightly darker sound out of it, because it is kind of, as you would expect on an Esquire that's only got a bridge pickup, it's pretty ear piercing, when you've got it wide open, tone control wide open. But man, you gave me this fantastic idea last week about changing the neck on that guitar instead of playing around with the frets and things. And I ended up on this kind of circular thing in my mind where I was like, well, if I change the neck on that guitar, that's fantastic, but I'll then have a spur guitar neck. What can I do with that? Shall I get a body for that guitar neck and make another guitar? And then I was like, oh, why would I want a Squire neck on a body that isn't a Squire guitar? That'll just seem weird. And I was like, should I just build another guitar instead of? And then I'm in kind of like, but now I'm just effectively buying another guitar. So I've got myself into this circular negotiation in my own mind about what the hell I should do. Should I bother changing the neck on that thing? Am I just going to go down the road of building another guitar? Should I just build another guitar? I'm kind of just trying to work that out in my mind.
So it kind of depends what you're trying to, because otherwise it's a domino effect and you go down this rabbit hole and you'll be constantly like kind of, well, I mean, we're all doing that anyway, but it's kind of like when we spoke, you were thinking that there's more you wanted to do with that telly to kind of change some of the tone options on it, maybe get it out there gigging for you a little bit more and make some tweaks to it. So if that's still the end objective, the most cost effective things that you can do is change the neck on it, because you were thinking about the frets, I think, weren't you? You were saying that the frets were a little bit maybe thin on that neck, and you were thinking about having refretted or something. So if that is the thing, then I would just say just switch out the neck. Because you'll still have the neck off of that guitar, but the problem will still prevail, which is the frets on that neck is probably still too thin to your liking. So you might just want to selling that neck's not a good idea, because if you ever sell the guitar, you kind of want to sell it as its original. Now I'm going down your rabbit hole.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man,
it's like hell, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Yeah. No, hell, obviously it's not. That is the other thing I was going to say. I've been also kind of thinking, do I actually really want this guitar? Did I, when I bought that, I bought it with the Gretsch, and I love the Gretsch. I adore that guitar. It's just everything I wanted for ages, and I got a really good deal on that Esquire. And I do love playing it. I do love it, but I don't know if I love it enough. I'm talking about modifying it, getting a new pickup and things to try. I'm effectively trying to solve problems with the guitar. The things that, over the time of owning it, I've kind of come to realize things that I probably wouldn't have if I was going to, go out and really kind of buy a guitar that I really wanted. So another thing I'm trying to toy with, and I'm just trying to reconcile these things over time. There's no rush. I don't want to jump in. I'm just trying to figure out. I may actually sell that guitar. I might actually sell that guitar and put that money towards something else, something else similar to it, because I would like a telly style body guitar. Okay. And if I was going to go for something different, I'd probably go for something like a thin line style, maybe a humbucker at the neck, standard telly thing at the bridge, something even semi-hollow. I don't know really, but there's I'm in no rush to do anything with these guitars. It's very well looked after. It's still mint. It hangs on my wall nicely though. It gets dusted down every few days. It gets cleaned and set up every time I change the strings. It's not got a scratch on it. So and I've still got the box and everything in the loft. At some point, if I do decide to sell it, somebody's going to get an absolute minter of a proper, decent, classic vibe Squire that is a really well made and a nice, top of the range Squire. Which doesn't say much. I know they're not expensive guitars, but I'm in no rush to do anything with it. It's a lovely axe. I'm not. I may still change the neck on it. I do have some worries about that. I don't really know how to drill out a new neck really well, but I guess just being careful in what I do and being methodical like I've been with other things, and I'll be fine. But
you'll be fine, mate. You'll be fine. Just make sure that the heel dimensions match up, and then I think there's a difference between the actual shape of the pocket. Some of them can be quite square in the cut, and some of them can almost be kind of rounded to
Strats and Tellys. That's right. Strats have got a rounded base of the neck, and I found this out researching, because I did think, wouldn't it be cool to put a Strat neck on it, and then it'd be a bit like the blind fair telly Clapton had. So the very base, not the flat underside, not talking about the Boost chocolate bar here, by the way, but not the flat part that goes against the body that's kind of parallel to the fretboard, the the very base, the bottom, if you were to stand the neck up on its end with the headstock at the top, that bit that's touching the ground, on a Strat, that's got a curve, and on a Telly it's square, which I found bizarre. I mean, why would Fender do that? I don't know whether that's to differentiate from one guitar to another, whether they thought it helped to align the Strat neck to be straight during manufacture, and it's a change they made because they built the Tellys first. I don't know. But that is something weird. So I guess if you're going to put a Strat neck on a Telly body, you've got to be very careful how you align the neck, because you're not going to get fully kind of wood against wood for the whole of the bottom of that neck. But I did think about that. I did think about getting a Strat neck. There are some lovely necks available. Sub £100, actually, there's so much available. Some decent, well-manufactured necks. Yeah,
we found some incredible, exotic wood necks with, lovely flame on them, or, the roasted maple stuff. As you say, for around 100, just under £100, and loads of these sellers on eBay, but, being manufactured out of UK production sites. I was like, oh, this is really tempting, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Really nice. Very tempting. And I maybe I will pull the trigger on it, if anything, just to have a go at it. But yeah.
Nice. Tell you what I did set up this week. You remember we were talking about was it you and I that were talking about the Rev Star recently? The Yamaha?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fantastic guitars. You don't know why we don't see them more often, to be honest.
So I had one with P90s in, brand new, to set up this week, which was a pleasure. Because it meant I got to try one out in the comfort of my own home. Because I've not
advantage of being a guitar tech.
I'd not tried one yet today. I had that. And so shout out to Rob if you're listening. He's the owner of this. He dropped off a couple to me. One was his Levinson Blade, which are phenomenal Strat type guitars. I mean, stunning. So we did that one, and then the Yamaha, which he said by his own admission, like, it's the worst guitar setup out of the box he's ever experienced. The action was like, way off the deck, and it's pretty I wouldn't say it's unplayable, but not a comfortable playing experience at all.
It's a shame.
Well, it is a bit of a shame, and who knows? It may have just been this particular model or whatever. But again. Bit of setup, bit of tweaking. It's playing like an absolute monster now. It's set up reasonably easily, actually. The neck was a pleasure. The fretwork was done, at least in terms of sharp edges, and all of that was done really well. I did find, once I'd done the neck relief and the nut needed cutting a little bit, but that's, it's standard out of the box, where it could have gone a little bit lower at the nut. So cut the nut, did the relief. It's got a really cool little kind of trapezoid kind of bridge thing, so adjusted all of that. Got the action quite nice, but it was just not going as nicely as I knew it could, and there was a 18th fret that was too high, and noticeably higher with the fret rocker than the rest of them, which was annoying, because that's the point where you go, damn it, this is so close, but I knew it could go better. So just slackened all the strings off and spot leveled that 18th fret, recrowned it, rebuffed it, polished it. Blends in now perfectly with the other ones. You wouldn't even know. And that was it. That was the fix, man. Soon as I then tweaked the action down, it's just gone slow and slinky as you like. These things happen, right? But actually, I haven't seen that in a budget to medium range guitar for a while. I wouldn't say this is a budget guitar. This is kind of a mid-range guitar. I haven't seen that in a while, actually, where the fretwork has been off like that. And there was that 18th fret had just been missed from the process. It just goes to show that, though, with a decent setup and a little bit of care and attention, these guitars can turn out to be absolute monsters. And it is now. It's a great guitar. Absolutely fantastic. I want a guitar with P90s.
I know. So do I, man. I do want a guitar with P90s as well. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe, oh no. all that stuff.
It's really cool.
Maybe that's what I'll look out for at the London Guitar Show, Kempton Park. Come along and see us.
That's what I'm looking for. It's guitar with P90s. I like it. Ollie Browning's got P90s in that isn't he?
A single P90.
I kind of like the look of that, the whole kind of Les Paul Junior vibe, Les Paul Special vibe. I quite like that, but I've definitely auditioned another couple of these Rev Stars. As I said, aside from a bad out of the box setup, the guitar itself is beautifully put together, beautifully finished. It was just a good setup away from being a dream machine. So it's a good guitar, I must say. Weightier than I thought they'd be.
Really?
They've got, it's like Les Paul weight.
Oh.
Considering it's quite a thin body and it's got all that chambering that they do and bits of graphite and stuff in it, I thought it would be actually quite a lightweight thing. It's not. It's the same as like your Epiphone Les Paul, if not slightly heavier. It's quite weighty.
That's surprising. You wouldn't expect them to be that big, really. Because they're double cutaway as well, aren't they? So it's not
double
like there's as much, material there.
Yeah. But it's in a nice way, not in an uncomfortable way, but just in a reassuringly kind of weighty. So yeah, it's a good guitar though. Definitely going to check that out. And it's got this weird push pull thing, which I think they call it a focus switch. I'm not sure why it comes up with that name, but it's basically instant woman tone. So you just knock it and you get that instant, like really rich, warm. If you're on a clean setting, it'd be great for jazz. But if you're in any kind of like dirty crunch setting, it's like literally instant woman tone at the push of a switch, which I thought was quite cool, actually.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. Cool. That's not something done by everyone, is it? Yeah. See, these guitars, they need to be out there being played by more people. But such is life. Everyone wants a Strat or a Les Paul.
They do.
Or a 335.
Yeah.
I've got arriving in the post today a Midi cable, a 5 meter long Midi cable.
Tell me your intent.
Do you know what? I haven't mentioned this to anyone yet, but actually I've been suffering with a lot of anxiety this summer at gigs. Because as much as I've been loving the Helix thing, any gig where I know I'm just on in-ear monitors and I'm not taking my Catalyst amp with me as backline or as anything like that, what if the Helix crashes? And because I'm on a lot of the Helix groups on Facebook and stuff, there's a lot of really good information there. They're really great places to go and ask questions about setup and improving tone. A lot of very experienced, a lot of really pro players on the groups as well. And I tell you, every day there's a post of someone saying Helix crashed in the gig this weekend and wouldn't reboot and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm sure this is... Yeah, and so I'm sure this is few and far between. It's just that when they happen, these people come online and let people know. And for the most part, most people I know who've used this modelling kit for gigs and stuff like that, they've never had this problem. But I've still been having anxiety, like, if I had a normal rig, I'd be able to just go straight into the amp if my pedal board was conked out or something, or pedal board straight into the PA, which would sound, dog poo, but, it'd get me through the gig kind of thing. And I thought, I've got nothing. If that Helix crashes, I've got nothing. So now I'm like, I need to know I've got something else to do. So I've actually decided that, do you know that old Digitech RP1 that I bought, a 1990s multi-FX pedal? So that's like got 10 switches on it or 12 switches on it, but 10 of those switches can be patches and you can sign like a MIDI program control to each switch if you want, like from 1 through to 12. And the Catalyst, although you can't buy a foot pedal for it that allows you to switch through all the different presets that you can store in it, you can control it through MIDI. So I thought if I just get a MIDI cable, then then I've got another option there, is I can use my Digitech RP1 not for sounds. I can just power it up and connect it via MIDI to the Catalyst, and then I can have a whole bank of usable presets saved in the Catalyst that I can then recall from the Digitech RP1.
Oh, that's cool.
So it makes the Catalyst way more flexible, whereas previously, you could just have one setting, or you can buy the foot switch and you can change between 2 presets. Now what I can do, I could use the Digitech RP1 to change to a bank of like 10 presets. So I can have like 3 or 4 clean sounds, 3 or 4 dirty sounds, and maybe a couple of louder sounds for punctuating stuff. But then I just thought, well, that gets rid of the anxiety of not having a second rig kind of thing. In fact, it gives me multiple options. I can go straight into the Catalyst. I could use that to control the Catalyst. But it's more of an anxiety fix more than anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. You need that get out of jail card. I mean, look, nothing's foolproof on a gig. Right, if my amp goes down, I've got a little amp in a box pedal that I know I can go straight into the PA off my board. If my board goes down, I know I carry a couple of spare pedals, so I can rip a couple of pedals off the board that are working and just go straight into the amp. And yeah, there's workarounds. It's nice to have a plan B for sure. I think that's just brilliantly mental that you're going to use like a 1990s piece of technology to control like a 2020s Catalyst. I love that. I love that. That's so cool.
I want to use it for its sounds as well. I do want to tweak it a bit because it's got some incredible tones. I mean, it's very, very 80s sounding. I mean, it's like hyper compressed. Yeah. You know, it's super kind of, there's a latency there, a slight latency, you know, to the playing that actually feels quite good in some of the sounds. Yeah. It's cool. It is cool. In context, in the right songs, it would be awesome. But it's not really usable in a gig sense to have like that on the floor and the Helix. And I could put it in the effects loop of the Helix and then switch it in for some of like the chorus and delay sounds and stuff. And that's just too much. It's just nonsense. That doesn't make for a convenient gig, and there's too many other things to go wrong, you know.
No. Exactly. Oh man, that sounds cool though. So you're trying that out today. Do you know if it will work? You can that it will actually.
Yeah, so I've been through the instruction manuals of both units, so I know the Digitech RP1 can output standard MIDI program change controls. I just need to change some settings and save which patch switches do which controls, and then it's just a case of programming the sounds in the Catalyst and saving them in the preset locations that I want, and then it should just be a case of, you know, bish bash bosh. It'll just then switch to wherever I tell it to switch to from that pedal.
Nice.
I don't know if there's going to be any. I mean, I don't know if I'll get a little bit of silence between preset changes. Maybe I will. I don't know. I get that with the Helix anyway, currently. Yeah, that's the only frustrating thing with the Helix. If you're using presets for all your different sounds, even though it's got dual DSP, when you're moving from one preset to another, there is a very slight, maybe half a second, quarter of a second silence kind of thing. You don't get trails or anything like that. Yeah, it just cuts out. And in some songs, it is quite obvious. You can fix that by going single DSP. So if you tell the Helix to only use one DSP, one signal path per preset, then when you're changing presets, it loads the new preset up in the available DSP, and you get all your trails and everything from the previous still running through the first DSP. So there's absolutely no latency and there's no silence between the two. But then every preset that you've got, you lose half the processing power. So it's kind of a trade-off. Do you want to have that extra processing power, or do you want to kind of, you know, lose it and have seamless movement between presets? It depends how complex your presets are. To be honest, for wedding gigs, I could probably get away with that, because most of the wedding gigs I do, I basically just need a decent, clean rhythm sound for all the soul and funk stuff and pop stuff that's in there. And I just need a decent, dirty sound for the rockier stuff. And so I don't actually need that much. I might try that next year on a lot of the gigs, is actually just flick the DSP down so that I get seamless changes between presets. But the other way to get around that is to not use presets and use snapshots. So you're using the same preset, but you're using snapshots to change settings within. Rabbit hole alert. That's another conversation. Forget that. Yeah.
I was with you. And no, I think you have explained to me snapshots before, but yeah, man, that's
so in a Helix, changing from preset to preset is kind of like, it's analogous to setting up an entire new rig every time, right? Yeah. Whereas snapshots is like having the same rig, but it's like having a gig rig G3 on your board, where everything's going through a loop, and then you can program the G3 to change what's on in the loop and where the routing is. So snapshots is like that. It's not changing your rig, but it's recalling different individual snapshots. So it's like,
that's how I would have to use it.
Yeah.
I'd have to use it like that in that mode. If I went between so many different rigs, I would just never get around to playing at all, because the different permutations of that would just be too much for me to just not like stop playing with, which I couldn't handle it. Like, almost too much choice. So yeah, I'd have to go to snapshot mode, whereas pick an amp, pick a kind of rig and basic signal path, and then just drop stuff in and out of that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, dude, it's a short but sweet one this week, but it's been good to catch up, and it was really good to see her last night at the Jam. It was really good to blow the cobwebs off, and I'm looking forward to the next one already. There'll soon be a Christmas Jam, won't there?
There will indeed.
It's October next week. It's madness.
It's crazy, mate. I don't know where this year has gone, but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to our October guitar show. So yeah, let's get ready for that. Let's start making a list of our questions. Let's start getting some people signed up for interviews with us there, and let's as always go on Guitar Safari and see what we can come back with.
Absolutely. Nice one, dude. Have a cracking week, my friend. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.
Cheers, buddy. Speak to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you hear, then why not give the rest of our shows a good listen too? And if you love our podcast and are a regular listener who wants to support the show even more, consider buying us a coffee over on our Buy Me a Coffee page. Anyway, best wishes. See you next time on Guitar Smarts Podcast.